Good morning and welcome to the St. Augustine Chronicles. Today I have a bucket list guest with me. I started a list of guests when I started this show in 2019, and Mr. Greg White has been on that list. So I'm very grateful for your time today. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure's mine.
Before we get started, let's go through our sponsors. First one is my brokerage, 97 Park Commercial and Residential Real Estate. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in property in St. Augustine? Trust 97 Park, your local residential and commercial real estate experts. From historic homes to business spaces and investment properties, 97 Park delivers market knowledge, smart strategy, and personalized service every step of the way. And when you're ready to make your move, contact me, Karen Zander, directly at 904-297-3471. And I would just like to add that I was the agent that brought Ember and Iron into downtown St. Augustine. They're going to open in maybe a year or so, but I know people are really excited about that. So I'm really looking forward to that addition to our downtown restaurant scene. And our other sponsor is the Kookaburra Coffee. Proudly founded in St. Augustine in 2012, the Kookaburra is your local home for fresh roasted coffee and made from scratch baked goods. From legendary Aussie meat pies to scones and sweet pastries, everything is crafted to pair perfectly with their signature coffees. Whether you love a smooth flat white, a bold Aussie iced coffee, or their famous Honey Badger latte. With multiple locations throughout St. Augustine, the Kookaburra is a part of the community and part of your daily routine, from morning commutes to weekend strolls. The Kookaburra, Aussie coffee, St. Augustine local. So, Greg, I always start out by asking people, how did you get to St. Augustine? Were you born here?
Actually, I was born in Putnam County, in a very large city called Edgar, Florida, or Johnson Crossroad. No traffic light, no stop sign. I was born in Putnam County, very small town, rural.
How did you end up, when did you come here?
I came here in my sixth grade. My early years was in Putnam, and then I come here, elementary school at West Augustine, number 6 elementary school.
Where was West Augustine number 6? Where was that?
On McLaughlin Street in West Augustine.
What is it? Is it still is the building still there?
Oh, one of the buildings, 2-story buildings, is still standing. The smaller buildings have been torn down.
And may I ask you, was that a segregated school then?
Oh, yes. Yes. I graduated in 1965. So all my schools were segregated. Number 6 was segregated. Murray was a high school at that time. So when I left number 6, I went to Murray High School from 7th grade until I finished with 1965 at 17 years old.
Tell me about that time.
Which time? The civil rights period or my high school days?
Well, both, because I was born in 1964 and I came from the Midwest, so I don't have any recollection, nor do I have any experience with that, with the segregation or what happened in the South. I read about it, but it's hard to grasp.
I think 1964. This is when Martin Luther King came in, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Ambassador Andrew young preacher named C.T. Vivian, and Reverend Taylor and Hosea Williams. In 1964, it was a big movement with the kids. When I say kids, like I'm 16 at that particular time. And if you look at the movement and you look at the march, you'll see a lot of 16-year-old kids, 15, 14, 13, in some cases, 8 or 9. So the movement began simply because everything was segregated. You know, the water fountain segregated, the bathroom segregated, restrooms, etc. And so the younger generation saying, it's time for a change.
I can't imagine growing up or experiencing segregation. I can't wrap my head around that.
We was 1 year old during that time period. So once they passed the Civil Rights Act bill, then everything began to change slowly, in my opinion, but the change was there. And each year it got a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better.
But how did that feel to live in a place that was like that? I just can't wrap my head around it.
Because my grandmama and my granddad, who raised me in the early stages, they was accustomed to it. My dad was accustomed to it. So as a youngster, elementary, middle school, up until I was in 11th grade, I was accustomed to it.
Did your parents and grandparents did they feel like that was okay, or was it?
Yes, because it was the norm.
I just
But it
can't.
was the norm during that time period. So you just adjust accordingly. As all human beings, you adjust accordingly. And of course, we adjust accordingly.
So if you wanted to go someplace that was, what's the proper term? It was whites only, or just
It had signs, white only, colored. White only here, colored here. With the restrooms, yes.
I just
You
can't
look like
even.
that's an amazement because I'm not 100 years old. Huh?
No, it's not that. It's just that I've never experienced that. I didn't grow up in the South. I'm not old enough. I was born in 64, so I didn't ever experience that. And I just can't wrap my head around living like that and having those restrictions, or even as a white person seeing that and thinking, oh yeah, that's okay. I can't fathom it.
Okay. And again,
and maybe that's a good thing, but
no, it is a good thing. It is a good thing, but I'm going to go back again. That was the norm during that time period. So to me, it was just normal, and to my parents, normal, to my grandparents, normal. Again, I started thinking different when I got in the 11th grade.
And what was it that caused you to think differently?
Abernathy, Reverend King, C.T. Vivian, Hosea Williams, when they began to say, no, we must integrate, we should be able to go here. If we are human, we should be able to go here. So in the 11th grade, I began to see things a little bit different than prior to that. Because it was a movement, a very powerful movement.
Did it feel powerful when you were living it here?
Yes, very, very powerful. My mom let 2 Freedom Riders come to our house.
Oh, is that your phone?
Yes, it did. So we are live.
Greg's got a really important call.
No, it just came on the music. I must have hit it with my hand sometime. Well, if I could just get to turn it off.
There you go.
Just put it here, then that won't happen again.
So it felt you knew at the time that. Did you know that you were onto something big, or did it feel like it was insurmountable, or how did that feel?
At the time, yes, I realized it was big because it was a very powerful movement. When I was in high school, the high school kids at Murray High would walk to Florida Memorial Campus on Holmes Boulevard, and we would walk from Holmes Boulevard to the plaza, singing our songs. We're not going to turn around. Just singing the songs, marching, saying we want change. It's time for a change. It's time for a change. So yes, it was huge to me during that particular time.
Did you feel when you were in it that you would be successful?
No, to be honest with you, no. I think I was too frightened. It's ironic. Again, I'm 16, 17, okay, and marching, especially coming through the plaza. You would have the night riders there saying things, beating on tables with chains and things.
Oh my God!
And as you walk by, you hear all of the derogatory terms and the hatred. And they would actually come and hit you. We would talk to fold up and just take the hit, the punches.
Oh my God!
And just fold up. And how ironic! Now this at 17 in 64, okay, and then in 68. I was in Vietnam. Never was afraid in Vietnam. Terrified as I walked through the plaza, but never was afraid in Vietnam.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. But then again, I'm older now. See, I'm 19, 20. And shot at, and then of course I shoot back. But never was afraid.
Well, also the fact that it was so segregated in the South, and you were subjected to that sort of segregation, but it was okay to send you off to fight a war along with anybody and everybody, right?
I got drafted. I remember my draft number just like it was yesterday, and this in 1967. My number is US 67096686. That's my number.
Wow. Mm-hmm. When you were drafted, wasn't it common for wealthier boys to get out of the draft?
I had no godly idea until I was an adult that a lot of wealthy folks send their kids to Canada and maybe other countries. But during that time period, again, I'm 19, 20, 21 when I 21, 22 when I got out. So I had no idea. I mean, I saw what I saw, and I was in what I was in. So I
Yeah.
had no idea what was taking place, let's say, on the other side of the track.
Yeah. What did your parents think and your grandparents think when you were involved in the civil rights protests?
My mom took it very good. My mama let the Freedom Riders stay in our house. It was two Freedom Riders. They both were white. And it was from the Boston area, Massachusetts. And they stayed with us 5 days. My house wasn't very big. We had like 5 kids. So one slept on the couch and one slept on the floor. They alternated which one sleep on the floor. And they would march with us. And so I was very excited to march. Let's say, I don't forget the names, but I'm going to use maybe one of them name was David. And so I said, God, I said, David, I'm going to march with you tomorrow. We will go hand in hand, like that. And he embraced me marching with him. But when I marched with him and the verbal abuse that he took and I took by marching with him, I was afraid to march with him again on the next day. But he understood. He was young. He had to be like 22, maybe 23. And he had experienced this before, but it was like terrifying to me, that person could come, say what they want, number one, and then physically attack you, and number two, and then it's nothing you can do.
I truly cannot grasp what you went through and what that time period was like. And maybe that's a good thing because we don't have that now, at least to that same degree. But I just can't. I can't grasp it. I think I know the history, not as intimately as you do, but I know the history of St. Augustine, and I've read about it, and I can appreciate it, but I just can't wrap my head around it. What did the white residents like? Were they friends of yours, or did you truly? Was it segregated in? How segregated was it? Like the people that were standing there yelling these things to you, saying these derogatory things to you, and beating you, were they okay if they saw you someplace else, or was it just constant?
Well, because again, it was segregated. I live in historic West Augustine, and during that time, it probably was 90% black on the west side. Okay, and then of course you had Lincolnville, which they used to call Little Africa. Then later it became Lincolnville. So yes, it was segregated because you had the pocket of blacks within historic West Augustine, and you have the pocket of black that was in historic Lincolnville. So we didn't, and I'm going to a segregated school, so I didn't have the pleasure of knowing white kids, okay, at that particular time because of the segregation. So I didn't know who was on the plaza yelling. Had no idea who it was.
I know someone who grew up here and lived on Charlotte Street when he was growing up, and probably around your age. And they had a black housekeeper / nanny. And he said one time to me, when we were little kids, my siblings and I could go into Lincolnville with our nanny, our black housekeeper. We could go into Lincolnville with her during the day when she was taking care of us, but my parents never went into Lincolnville. And yeah, and it was just this, it was Central Avenue then, right?
Central
and
Avenue,
he said
that
my
is
parents
correct.
would not cross that line to go into Central Avenue. And again, that's just so, I can't wrap my head around that. So was it 64 that the Civil Rights Bill was signed? Is that right?
65.
65.
But all the activity in 64 prompted it to be signed in 65.
But it can't be that things just changed.
Well, nothing changed that quick. But now you have a federal law saying, oh, yes, I could go to the monsoon now and stay. I could go to the monsoon now if I chose to eat. But it doesn't change, overnight. Gosh, decades.
I mean, the enforcement had to not be there really, right, in the beginning? Because people
definitely wasn't there.
So you were drafted, you said, in 68?
67.
67.
July 1967.
What did that feel like?
It was a Saturday morning. And during that time, everybody in the neighborhoods was going to Vietnam or going into the military. So we knew. I stayed on 2nd Street. We knew it was a matter of time. And my brother went to Vietnam. Roger Clear went to Vietnam. And I went to Vietnam on 2nd Street. And 2nd Street only had 5 houses on it during that time. But that was common throughout the neighborhood. So I knew that I was going to get drafted. It was just a matter of time. And one Saturday morning, my sister, younger sister, I was still asleep. And she woke me up and said, "Well, you got mail today, Gregory." And she was standing there, in the U.S. She knew what it was before we even opened it. So she said, "Oh, here it is, okay." And I go, "Gosh, I know what that is." So when I opened the letter, of course, it says greetings. That's how it began.
Yeah.
And
hey.
Greetings. Then I got a call from my friend. He went to Vietnam too. He's deceased. He died of Agent Orange. Maurice Stafford. He called me on the phone. He said, "Gregory, I got my papers." I said, "Reese, I got mine too." I said, "When are you leaving?" He said, "I got to be at the Greyhound bus station, let's say the 10th. And I said, "I got to be there on the 10th. So I went to his house and we talked. And we went to basic together. He was upstairs in the barracks and I was downstairs in the barracks. So it was pretty good when I went to basic to have someone that lived like 4 or 5 streets away from me.
Did you have any? You were drafted. You didn't have a choice. I guess you could try to go to Canada. I guess, right? But
no, I was going to walk to Canada.
Yeah,
I didn't have no vehicle for that.
Yeah. But did you? To send someone off to war who doesn't have a personal reason to want to do that. Like when World War II happened, so many people signed up because and 9/11, it happened to a smaller degree, right? Where people said, "I want to go fight for my country." But did you have any reason to want to go to war?
Oh, gosh,
Was
no
that
one,
even?
No, gosh, no one wanted to go. Leo C. Chase Jr., I Drained Valley, the movie We Were Soldiers. If you saw that movie, at the end of the movie, they showed all the casualties, okay? And you'll see Leo C. Chase Jr., which is the veteran home is named after him. And his dad lived on the same street that I grew up on. So we knew people were dying in Vietnam. It was very close to us that, people were dying. And then Lamar Williams, and I can go on with that. So we knew, that you may not come back. We knew that because some did not come back. And I think even sadder, Karen, I'll just use the first name, Arthur. He was the belle of his class. He went to Special Forces, heck of a football player, brilliant mind. Went to JU, got drafted, went to Vietnam Special Forces. Physically, he came back. Mentally, he did not. He eventually sat on the railroad track. And that was it for him. That hurt more. And you see, even I got a Vietnam cap said 57 plus thousand died. It don't never say how many died after Vietnam with Agent Orange. Like the author, how many died on the railroad track, how many committed suicide.
Yeah.
So I would say whatever the number going to be, it would be greater than the 50 plus thousand that maybe everybody know about.
What a turbulent time the 60s were in so many ways for you and for people. What a turbulent time. Mm-hmm. Did you feel at the time like you were living in it? Because people talk about how turbulent it is now, and it is in a lot of ways, but they compare it. I've heard the comparisons to the 60s and the civil rights movements and the Vietnam War and things like that. And I wonder if there's really any comparison.
At this time, in my opinion, you don't have the violence. Remember, cities was burning, Watts was burning. I took riot training prior to going to Vietnam. Okay, the urban cities, a lot of them was burning. And the violence that went with it, even though maybe the political scene now is not what you or I desire, but we don't have thank God, we don't have the violence. During that time, it was violent. People died, and a lot died. Buildings were destroyed. I was in New York when in the riots in Harlem in '64. my biological dad was there. It looked like a bum shelter, like bums had came in, not a shelter, like bums came in. I lived on Lenox Avenue, and up and down Lenox Avenue was just destruction, 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 destruction. So the difference, I would say, the violence. To answer your question.
Did you understand the relevance and the significance of people like Andrew Young and Martin Luther King coming here?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
you knew then?
Yes. Oh, yes. Because prior to Martin Luther King coming, we kept hearing, they would call him Martin. Martin coming, we're going to get Martin to come to St. Augustine. And it looked like it took forever for him to finally come. And so when he came, my grandmama was still living there. My grandmama was crazy about MLK. We was at St. Mary's Baptist Church, and my grandmama said she was going to march because she wanted to hear him speak. She wanted to be part of that. So my grandma was in the church, and I'm sitting by her, and I said, "Okay, Mom." I call her Mom. I said, "Listen, Mama, I'm going to be right in front of you. All right, I want you to stay right by me. Okay." I said, "Okay, great, I got it." So we was on Washington Street, and we walking, and then we turned to go up Grenada, going to the plaza, and I looked back. She was very short, and I didn't see her. Gosh, I wonder what happened to her. So I just kept going to the back of the line, all the way to the back of the line, and I couldn't come. I come back up to the front, and I still couldn't see her. Gosh, what happened to her? By this time, we're getting close to the plaza, of course. So I went back to who I was marching with, side by side. I come back to the church at St. Mary's. My mom is sitting in grandma. She's sitting in the same pew. When I left, I said, "Mama, what happened to you?" She said, "The Lord told me to go back to the church." So I just busted out and started laughing. I never forget that one.
I don't know, that whole idea of what happened. I'll tell you, I'm married to a German citizen. My husband's, he grew up in Germany. His whole family is German, was from Germany. And one time I talked to his grandmother, who, my husband's mother was born in 1940, so she was very young during World War II. But so his grandmother, of course, had much more to recollect. Mm-hmm. And she lived in a building, they owned the building where there was a bomb shelter underneath. Mm. And her husband was sent off to fight for the Nazis, didn't have a choice. And I had a long conversation with her about just how that could have happened, right? How people could have just let that happen. And I feel the same way when I listen to you. I'm grateful that there are people like you and like her who were able to talk to me on a first-person basis, mm-hmm. because when you talk to someone who lived it, mm-hmm. was there, it's different than when you read about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful that people like you and her at the time were still around, and that I have the privilege of talking to you about things like this. But I still just it's just so difficult to wrap your head around, and it's difficult to understand how things like that can happen in humanity. And it's the same with what you went through in the 60s. It's not the same. I shouldn't say the same, but just how humanity can
be humanized.
Yeah.
How to be humanized or yes. individual based on whatever.
Yeah.
How could that be?
Yeah.
But it happened. It happened. And today, to a certain extent, it seems as though we might be going back in that direction. Look at what's happening with ICE.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about some of the things that a lot of the things that you've done since, because mm-hmm. you've really made such a difference in your community. But I wonder what it feels like to you to look back and know what you participated in. Does it have significance and relevance to you? Like, to me, I feel like I don't know how to say this. I feel like I'm sitting across from royalty in a way because of what you've done, what you believed in, what you fought for, and the difference that you and any individual made. Do you grasp the relevance of what you participated in?
No, I really don't think so, But I do know this, Karen. I don't hate. Hate doesn't reside with Greg White. And remember, I told you early on, them freedom riders was white from Boston, and they got more verbal abuse, more physical abuse than anybody that marched. All of them.
But they could leave. I'm not belittling
They could
it.
leave, but they also could have been killed.
Yes.
They also could have been some died.
But they made the choice to come here.
They made the choice to come. But I'm saying how courageous they were.
I'm not belittling that.
Yeah, I said that to say this. How could I hate for all that they have done? So you just can't put, my point is you can't put everyone in a basket. So hate doesn't reside with Greg White. Never did. Never did.
But to come out of that with that mentality is incredible.
Well, and Greg is not the only one. There's millions feel the same way when you think about it. And like I said, we talked earlier, and you said, well, what's the difference? And I immediately said the violence of the 60s. I think people forget about how violent that was and how scary it was. Thursday night, never forget this. It was a communique that went through Lincolnville and West Augustine at the Ku Klux Thursday night. I never forget the Thursday. Coming through both communities, and they're going to shoot, they're going to do burn, whatever the case may be. So my dad got on the roof of our house with his weapons on the roof. My next door neighbor, Rudolph, Mr. Rivers, got on St. John Street from 1st Street to 2nd Street, and he had guns set up at different points. Okay, and he was telling my dad, okay, when they come this way, I'm going to be here with this gun. Then I'm going to run to the next stop. I'm going to be here with my gun. So basically, don't shoot me. Okay. And then to the kids, you sleep on the floor and you do not turn lights on and you sleep on the floor. So when I said the violence, that's why I immediately said the violence is the difference in my opinion.
Yeah, that's not the same as what's happening today at all.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah. So you went to Vietnam. What branch of the military? Army?
Army, AmeriCare Division. Yeah, 13 Bravo 40. Artie.
What was that like to have to fight a war like that when you didn't have an issue with the people you were fighting?
I guess, Karen, again, there's certain things that, especially when you're that young, we were so young. And so you just followed orders. You just followed orders. I mean, I didn't have any preconceived thoughts going, with the exception of I want to come back. That was one of my preconceived thoughts. How do I survive? This was an experiment too, and I didn't know it 2 years later reading. Again, I was with the AmeriCare Division. So once I finished basic, I went to Fort Lewis, Washington for 6 months, extensive training to go to Vietnam. Okay, I was part of that movement. I learned later, because so many, they use a term in Vietnam, effing new guy. And it was so many new guys dying because you don't know in combat, even though you're trained, these kids, we are 18, 19, 20, 21. When you get incoming and when it's firefight, you don't know, I don't know what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that.
Because you're a new person. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. So the Army decided, all right, we're losing so many new people the first month, second month, third month, etc. We're going to train a whole battalion to go. And I was part of that movement. After that 6 month extensive training, the whole battalion went to Chula.
So you had a different level of trust with the people that you were with?
Because if I'm a new guy and you've been in country 5 or 6 months and you survive 5 or 6 months, again, you're not going to take care of me because you don't know what I may do once it gets hot. And so you probably just, push me away. And so they knew that a lot, and today, that part just don't make sense, how you could train somebody from basic and AIT and then put him in an environment like that. Yeah, so I'm glad I had the extensive training. That's my whole point. You
must have seen a lot of death and injuries. You must have. I can't. Yeah.
You know,
How do you get through that mentally? How do you get through that?
you never get through that. You never get through that. It's an impossibility. It's not normal to see what we saw.
Right.
You can't normalize that.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not over it. I never get over it. Never. Never.
How do you feel about when we talk about going to war now, or the sometimes we often don't call them wars anymore, right? They sanitize the name for what we do. But how does that feel to you since you've been back, when we talk about that, sending people in areas that, you know?
I've got 2 grandkids that's in the Navy, and both have been deployed. And at this point, their mom and dad don't even know where they're at. So it's scary. It is really scary. Yeah.
You've had so many life experiences that are just, they're a lot. They're a lot to live through.
Mm. Yeah, but I'm still here, right?
Yeah. So let's change it up. Let's talk about what did you do when you got back?
Well, when I come back from Nam in '69, jobs was hard to come by. So initially, I worked for a company called Clock Enterprise, doing construction out at St. Augustine Shores. Then I learned how to finish concrete during that time, and then at an early age, in my late 20s, I got a company called St. John's Cement Finishers, and I had a 4-man crew, counting myself. And so I pulled concrete. I did patios. I did driveways. I did foundations, and I worked like 4.5 years doing that. And I looked around, and I have no money, no insurance, no fringe benefits. That's the term we used during that era. I had no fringe benefits, and I'm going, gosh, then I had kids too, 4 kids at the time. And I'm going, this is just not working. I'll be doing this, and I might not never have no money. I need fringe benefits. So I applied for a job for the city of St. Augustine, and I read meters. The first black to do something of that nature. All other blacks would have shovels, rakes. So that I advanced to that, and that was a good working relationship. Kind of rocky when I first come in, because no blacks had ever did that. All right, so it was rocky. Matter of fact, my first day walking in, I said, "Good morning, good morning." Nobody said nothing. So I said, maybe they didn't hear me because I had lost my hearing from explosion. That's why I have the hearing aids on. Plus I'm old, so twofold. So I said, maybe they didn't hear me, so maybe I need to talk a little louder again. I said, well, good morning, good morning. Crickets.
Well, I was going to ask you, so the civil rights law was passed, you were in Vietnam, you came back, and then with your company, with concrete work, you must have worked for some white people, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you worked for the city, but you came back to still having to deal with the discrimination, the prejudice, the quasi-segregation, I guess.
But not as bad because of the federal bill. Because now it's a federal law mandating this, mandating that. So it was better.
But again, you came back from having to fight in a war where, did people care about the color of your skin when you were over fighting?
No.
So, then you came back and you had to go back into this sort of environment.
No, yeah, that's a very good question. Very good question. No. To answer your question, no. We had the same common enemy. Okay. And together we got to do what we got to do. Yeah. Good question. Nobody ever asked me that before.
So after you worked did you have your whole career with the city?
Oh, no. No, I worked for the city for 4.5 years. And a guy named A.C. Brandt was working for Florida Power and Light Company. And so A.C. came to me, let's say maybe 3 years into the city. And he said, Greg, we got to open it because of affirmative action. We just lost an employee, and affirmative action said you got to replace one with a minority. So I said, AC, man, I just don't want that job I said, I got a friend said, if you're doing good, let better go to hell. So I told Asa that. So Asa
That's
left.
a good thing to live by. You threw that out there, but that's actually, if you got a good thing, let better go to hell. That's a good thing to remember.
and so, like, then a year and a half later, in the same identical place, about the same time, 4:45, Asa pulled back up in the parking lot again. Greg, I got another opening, man. You already know how to read me. You can get going, man. And so forth and so on. So I said, Asa, man, I told you I'm okay. And he says this question to me. He said, Greg, how much do you make an hour? You don't want to tell nobody what you make an hour.
Right.
So yeah, I had that look, and I didn't tell him. So he said, I tell you what the FPL going to do. They're going to start you off at $5.40 an hour. Well, my supervisor wasn't making $5 an hour.
Maybe I'll rethink this.
Yeah. I said, how much? He said $5.40 an hour. I said, get me the application. And so he brings the application to my house. I fill out the application. I submit it back to FPO. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, they offered me the job. And I retired as a residential energy consultant with Florida Power and Light.
How long were you with them?
27 years. Great job. Great job. When I say great job, I had a supervisor named Dottie B. And she's just a fantastic woman. Fantastic. She was superwoman, I tell you.
You strike me, though, as someone who's going to make a great job out of anything they're doing, Greg.
Well, I'm going to try. Yeah, Karen, I'm going to try.
Yeah, you strike me as you made the job great. Just by your attitude and your work ethic. I have a feeling that was a lot of you making that job great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So during that, when did you really start? Well, I know you were involved in uplifting your community from the time you were a child, but when did you really start getting super involved in all of the things that you've been involved in so that now you're the unofficial mayor of West Augustine? When did that really start?
Yeah, it started, my granddaughter named Shannon was staying with my wife and I at the time. And Shannon was in middle school, and she would leave our house, and she would go on the corner of Pearl Street and Volusia to catch the bus to go to school. Let's say she did that in the 6th grade. Okay, and then the 7th grade came, and then we had a lot of prostitution, a lot of drugs at the neighborhood, a lot of stuff that wasn't too kosher. And the prostitutes would walk up and down Pearl and Volusia on a regular basis. Okay. And the prostitutes began to stand on that corner frequently where Shannon caught the bus. So I would call the police, and get what I generally get. And the solution was let the prostitutes have the corner, and they moved Shannon down to Antioch Baptist Church, which means now I have to walk her or my wife down there when we can stand on the porch and see her. And so I was telling Joanne, a neighbor, about it. And she said, you ever heard of the CRA? No, I don't know what that is. She said, well, it's a group to get together, and then they trying to improve West Augustine, and they meet, it was a Monday, and they meet every Monday. I said, where at? She said, Claudia Blocker. Cabin Pete at the time, Cabin Pete Park. I said, fine, I'm going to go out there. I just want to tell them about the prostitutes and da-da-da-da. So I went to the meeting, and I told my story, and then they had committees. They had 6 committees, and policing was one of them. And so I told the chairman, about the situation. And then I went to another meeting, and then became the chairman over it for like 14 years. And that's how I got started. That's your question.
And so I know you've been very involved and very instrumental in the CRA for West Augustine. Oh. What else have you been involved in?
I have a nonprofit called West Augustine Historical CDC. It's a 501c3 nonprofit that was established September 2010.
What does the CDC stand for?
Community Development Cooperation.
Thank you.
Okay. And got the nonprofit in 2010 with a friend of mine. He's a Marine, so I forgive him from that. My brother was a Marine also. My friend name is Tom Crawford. He 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam. Very good friend. And I wanted to improve the neighborhood. And he was saying that you need a nonprofit. I said, what does it take to get a nonprofit? He said, I can give you a consultant. You pay the consultant. So I started the nonprofit, okay, to just improve the area. And the nonprofit was successful and getting the Health and Wellness Center on the corner of Volusia and not Volusia, of King and Bavard. We have full providers, and thank God for folks like Gerald Chester and Mark Bailey. They were drum majors, and Mike Davis was a Superman. He did the construction. And we got it together. We got the full providers in there. We have Epic, we have Youth Crisis, Wildflower, YMCA.
It's named after you and your wife, isn't it?
It's named after, yeah.
Congratulations.
Wife, right? Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I lost her like almost 2 years, so it's kind of tough on that one. Yeah.
But you've been involved in even more, right?
With the Health and Wellness Center?
Just with West Augustine.
Oh, yeah. Some experiences. The Solomon Calhoun Center in Pooh. Past Congressman Johnny Amika. He took the veterans. Johnny Amika did. Congressman Amika did. And so we had breakfast with him, dinner with him, and he wanted to know more about historic West Augustine, okay, and what he could do to improve it. So Tom Crawford and I, we did a survey for the community, and we said, what's the number one thing you want in historic West Augustine? I thought it was going to be policing. I just knew. I told TC, Tom Crawford, I said, it's going to be policing, Doc. He said, well, we don't want to take your word. But I said, I know my neighborhood. It's going to be policing. So we do the during survey, and the number one comeback from the residents was youth services. They wanted some place for the youth to go. That came back number one. I think policing came in like third or fourth. And anyway, so we go back to the table, TC and we talking. He said, what we going to do? I said, we got to do something. I said, how about a community center with a pool? He said, why the pool? I said, because so many people have drowned in the borrow pits in West Augustine, so we need the pool too. So Congressman Micah came aboard during that time. We pushed it through him, TC did. And he leveraged, I think, $500,000. Past Senator Tony Hill from the state leveraged $500,000. So we had like $1 million to start that Solomon Calhoun pool, and the rest is history. It's there.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful facility
Thank
too,
you.
and gets a lot of use.
Oh, it gets a heck of a lot of use. Yeah. So the community said they wanted youth services, and Tom Crawford, the CRA, delivered the youth services, something that's going to be there forever and a day.
You know, that's not easy to do that. That's not easy to bring that kind of money and focus in. That is really not easy.
6.2 million. My mom and dad was living when we was trying to do this, and they ate breakfast the same time every day. So I would swing by and listen to it. We talked. And my mom told me after the Calhoun, they were still alive when the Calhoun Center was built. So they was eating breakfast one morning after it was built. And she said, Gregory, I said, yeah. She said, I used to sit and eat breakfast for 2 years, I think it took, maybe 3, whatever. And she said, we be eating breakfast. And when you walk out, she said, George, and I said, poor Greg, he really want that to happen, but there's no way they're going to bring $7 million out here for nothing like that. When it was built, she said, but God, you just stayed focused. You stayed focused. But TC, you got to you put him on your bucket list. You need to bring him in.
All right, I will.
He's great.
I will.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money, no matter how you look at it. To start from nothing and to get the focus that it took.
But we had the state, willing to come forth. We had the federal government willing to come forth. And then we had the TC had already formed the CRA area before I came aboard. And out of that CRA area, they got something they call the TIF, tax increment revenue.
Yeah.
You're familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
So all the revenue on new construction go in this pot, not the general funds. So we were able to pitch with, we got $1 million, and we got a steady stream of revenue. Wasn't enough, but we got a steady stream of revenue to pay for the complex. And thank God we got it. We got it. But the vision was there. And TC, that's why I say you got to have him on.
All righty.
Yeah. Tom Crawford, you got to get him. Get him on here. Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
And now you've got the Black History Museum from the Florida Memorial at the Florida Memorial Site, and I know that you were instrumental in that. Talk to me about that.
First of all, when the college left, we had 44, 45 businesses in historic West Augustine.
When did they leave?
68. 68, I think it's 68 or 69. 40, 40, 44, 45 plus. When they left, it is only one for-profit business still out that
It's still there.
survived. Chase Funeral Home. Chase Funeral Home survived. The church is nonprofit, and
Yeah.
I'm a member of American Legion Post 194, and so the post survived, but all of the other businesses left. So that Black History Museum, in my opinion, would be the economic engine that brings gainful employment to historic West Augustine. The relationship with the county and Florida Memorial was very toxic for a long time. Okay, and
We know
both,
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay, both of them had to
Yep.
side.
Yep.
Current administration, President Bill McCormick, big guy, get things done, and the foundation chair, Pastor Horace Horwood, we formed a very good relationship with them, and they have a good relationship with the county. So we was able to leverage, because of the relationship, 17 and a half acres to put the Black History Museum in historic West Augustine. So it'll be the economic engine that's going to make it go. Thanks to the state, we leveraged it year before $1 million and leveraged $1 million this year for planning and design. The Black History Museum Foundation Chairman Howard Hartley.
Mhm. Yeah, I know Howard.
You know Howard. Howard Hartley, another phenomenal cat. He was the CEO of Xerox, of DJ in China. So he's the drum major that's leading that effort. So once we get the fundraising, I'm part of the board. Once we get the fundraising component moving, okay, and while Howard still have energy, all righty, it's going to be a reality. It's going to be a reality. Okay.
And how interesting is it that it's happening at the time when the city will have a Black female mayor? It's just kind of serendipity. It's all coming together at the same time, and the focus that she brings to West Augustine and to change, right?
And to change. And to change. We being the American Legion Post 194 have an appreciation dinner for the mayor-elect tonight at 6:00. And we just want to say, hey, this is current history. Let's eat, let's fellowship, let's rejoice, and let's make sure she gets the support she needs from the residents, because let's face it, it's a job. So I'm very excited about the dinner tonight. Very excited about her being the mayor-elect on a post.
Me too.
That's phenomenal.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's when you file and someone drops out and nobody runs against you, you got some power behind you.
You got some power behind you. You do.
That makes a statement.
Yes. So we're very excited about that happening. And I'm excited about the Black History Museum coming to the area.
Greg, what do you think it takes to motivate young people now to become passionate as you were from a young age, and you still are? How do you motivate young people now?
That's a very good question. I had suffered with one of my grands. I got like 13 grands and about 14 great grands. So I got a lot of grands.
My gosh, that's fantastic.
But I had dinner with one. He treated me to dinner, by the way. Thank you, Jawan. Appreciate it.
As well he should.
How do you get them motivated? That's a heck of a question, because I really don't have the answer. But because the population with African Americans, I volunteered with the census in 2000. The population for the African Americans in St. John's at that time was 6.7%. I volunteered for the census again in 2010. The population dropped down to 5.6%. The only county in 67 counties where we lost a whole percentage point of African Americans. So much alarming that the U.S. Department of Labor summons the CRA and our group. We met in Jacksonville, a long round table. We were just brainstorming, throwing things up against the wall, trying to figure out why are the 67 counties this county lost that much of a population of African Americans, and they did a trolley tour. David did a tour, and I did a tour with the folks from Jacksonville and the county commissioners, the mayor, etc. And in my opinion, it's just an opinion. why so many have left is gainful employment. It is not much gainful employment here.
Yeah.
So they leave and they become county administrators in North Carolina and in Georgia or in different areas, but it's not here.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get them motivated? That's a very, very good question. I don't have the answer on how you get them motivated, but I know when a person has gainful employment, they don't survive anymore. They live. They don't survive. I survived. Linda and I survived one time from payday to payday. Hard, but we survived. Finally, when I got with FPL and she became a West Augustine General, she was a billing clerk supervisor. Finally, we began to live.
And thrive.
Yeah.
You can see the future. You can make plans. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like younger people today, you hear that they don't care about history. I don't know if that's true. Mm-hmm. You hear that they they just aren't very engaged in learning about history. And sometimes I've read articles that people now are almost disputing events in history, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's so much on social media that they see and they believe, and so much that's false, or who knows if it's false anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I think about the next generation I hear your story, your life story, and I'm just amazed at all that you've been through, all that you've accomplished, all that you've taken on. Mm-hmm. And I think, how does that next generation step up and do that? What's their impetus? What's their, I don't know.
And nor do I. Because this is social media. And a lot of them, that's how they communicate.
Yeah.
And even though it's a lie, they believe it, and they don't dig into the weeds to find out exactly what's happening. And that's another, with the Black History Museum, $100 million building, 100,000 square feet. So we'll be able to capture not just St. Augustine history, but nationwide history, and put it there where it's not fake. It's real. Okay. It is real that MLK came to St. Augustine, where he came to 8 cities or 7 cities in Florida. The only one that he was arrested in was St. Augustine. That's a fact. It is a fact that Andrew Young came and participated in the civil rights struggle. And these are named as, maybe MLK is worldwide, not national. And maybe Andrew Young, maybe it's worldwide too, for all that he has done as an ambassador, as a mayor, as a civil rights fighter, and he's still alive. He's still alive. He's still engaged.
But that's why it's so important for people like you to be out there and to put a personal face and story on history like that, mm-hmm. because you can be a younger person or anybody who isn't engaged in the history, doesn't say, maybe they don't care about it, or sometimes, like I said, they're almost negating it, they're disbelieving it, and then you come face to face with someone like you who can say, no, I was there. And the things you've told me about, it was a Thursday night. And, my neighbor was up on his roof and he told my dad. That's a very different type of history than just reading it or seeing some movie about it. That's I'm sitting here with you. How could I possibly negate that? And how could I not? That's impactful to someone who hears you speak about it. So that's why it's so important for people like you to be out there and to be talking and meeting with people. Even, I say younger people, but I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people who, aren't so young and also don't really grasp it or
don't dig into the weeds.
Yeah.
Because of social media, it's got pluses, but it certainly have many, many minuses.
Well, I'm really glad. My girls, I have 2 girls, and the oldest is 30 and the youngest will turn 26 this year. And I'm very glad that I don't have to raise younger kids now with all of the social media and things. My girls, they had smartphones, but they were older when they really started coming out with them, and it wasn't social media. I can't imagine raising children now with all of that. My sister has a 15-year-old boy, and so she's going through it, and it's such a struggle. And there's just so much faults out there. And now you have AI too. So you see these things and they look real. And how do you discern that they aren't, right?
Yeah.
So they're changing history by producing fake things.
But look so real.
Yeah.
It looks so real.
Yeah. Do you think in the Black History Museum that there will be opportunities for you and people that you know or people that really lived the history to be there and engage personally?
Let's hope so. You're familiar with the burning bus?
Yes.
Right. You're familiar with, I was on the burning bus, 54. I always tell people like 52 or 54 people on the bus. 5 years from now, there'll be 500 people on the bus. They said it was on the bus. To answer your question, yes. I think with the Black History Museum, their history is going to be recorded and recorded correctly. And I'm glad that Howard has stepped up in the manner in which he has stepped up. But just as courageous is Commissioner Sarah Arnold, County Administrator Joy Andrews.
Sarah does not back down from a fight.
She's a warrior. She's a warrior. She went to Black Caucus meeting, her and Joy by themselves. And they just are warriors. And they believe that it could happen. Who'd have thought out of the 13 cities that St. John, St. Augustine would get it? The chairman was from Orlando area. The co-chairman was from Orlando area. So the deck was stacked that they was going to get it. Well, I was on the burning bus. But when we bought the smoke, you heard that from we bought the smoke. Yeah. When we came into those chambers smelling like smoke, the whole temperature of the room changed. It changed, and we came out number one.
Well, I know Sarah very well, and I always tell people, if you ask Sarah for help, you better damn well be prepared, because 30 seconds later, you're going to get a solution, and it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
She doesn't waste any time, and she will make it happen.
Yes.
So don't ask her for help if you don't want it.
I agree. I told her one time, I said, gosh, you move at warp speed. She said, I don't have time to wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have time to wait. Yeah.
What, I know that you probably don't think about things this way, but I want you to. Okay. What is the thing that you are most proud of that you've done in your life? Because you've done so much. What is the thing you're most proud of?
I would say the Wellness Center. And one of the main drivers of the Wellness Center was that the infant mortality rate for African Americans in this zip code where I sleep is 4 times greater than any other community. But if you look at it national, the infant mortality rate for Black kids is way above everyone else. So I would say the Wellness Center, and with UF coming in there and with Wildflower has been a giant in our clinic. I didn't know they provided so much services. I don't think people in St. Johns County know what kind of service Wildflower
And they've been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And for a long time. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, the Health and Wellness Center, by far, because it's going to save lives. I don't, one starfish at a time, you've heard that. One starfish at a time, we're successful. And I stand on that one. Yeah.
When you look back on your life, do you go back to when you were 15, 16 years old? Mm-hmm. Are you surprised at the life that you've led and the things that you've done? Or do you look, can you get back into your head when you were 15, 16, and do you feel like you always knew that you could do these things?
Oh, no, because I was very shy in elementary.
You were?
Oh, very, very shy. The military was good for me. It was good for me. I had a teacher, her name is Esther Robinson. She said, you read extremely well, but you need to read aloud. Read aloud. She said, you need to read aloud. You know, and that stuck with me. We had, even though the schools were segregated, Esther Robinson, Miss Van, Miss Mills, Miss Calhoun, I can go on and on. We had Mr. Hatley, who was the first cousin of Frank Butler. We had some great teachers, not good teachers. When I was in the military and when I got with Florida Power Line, I realized how valuable they were, even though it was segregated. Okay, they did their thing. One more story. Okay, with the civil rights. Okay, I know your time is up, right? Our time is up.
I always run out of time. I'm so interested in people that are on.
Yeah. Last one. During the movement, I was at Murray, and Mr. Murray was like 5'6" with a baritone voice, and he just ruled the school, right? And he would stand at one door as the kids trying to go to Florida Memorial and walk to the plaza, go back to your classroom, go back to your classroom. And so we'll stop, and he's there. And we go to the east door, and we'll run out that door, come back like a cartoon going backwards and forth. And so I asked Sammy Lee Wilkerson, who graduated in 1964, and they were like brave, that 1964 class, they were brave. And I said, Sammy Lee, I didn't see Miss Van, Mr. Walker, Miss Mills, Miss Calhoun, and none of the other teachers, just Mr. Murray trying to stop us from going out of the door. And his response was, Greg, they was in the teacher's lounge praying for us. We were in on that one. Yeah. Praying for us. Yeah. It is so much. Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
Greg, I wish I had more time with you, but I'm so honored to have you in here.
No,
Thank you for sharing what you've shared.
Cynthia was right about you.
It was just such an honor to have you in, and I'm so grateful for the people that come on my show and share their stories so that new residents understand what a special place St. Augustine
it is special, isn't it? It is very, very special.
So, Greg White, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure's mine.
I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it.